welcome to another
What's your name?
episode. Oh, I'm Alana. This is Nick.
That's a nice name.
Thank you.
Nick, I mean.
Oh,
Nick's a nice name.
have you heard of the name Nicholas? I heard of it for the first time today, but I thought it was,
Weird name.
yeah,
Weird name.
a
Nick's
little bit
much better.
strange.
A little bit
Yeah.
strange. Anyone born under the name Nicholas needs to get himself checked.
Yeah. Whenever I say Nicholas, I think of your PayPal account, which is Nicholas.
I changed it. I changed it the other week when I got a job.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm a fully functioning adult.
Yay. Awesome. So today it's our first book review.
It is.
Not really a
This is
review.
not a review. You told
No,
me
just
it
a
was going to be a review.
discussion. Just a discussion. Oh
Well,
no, the
now
whole
I'm-
episode is gonna be I describe the book and then I go 4 out of 5 and then end.
Alanna describes the book and then goes 4 out of 5. That's the name of this episode. Alanna describes a book and then goes 4 out of 5. No matter what the
No
book
matter
is.
if it's a terrible book, yeah.
Yep, it's always 4 out of 5.
I read this book called My Life as a Blundering Ballerina when I was like 5, and I got through like a page, and it was the worst book I've ever read. And that
What would you give that?
Also
A 4
4
out of
out of
5?
5. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
What would you give this
Okay.
podcast?
Pardon?
Just out of interest, what would you give this podcast?
4 out of 5.
Only 4 out of 5.
It's a lie.
Wow.
I'd give it 6. No, I'd give it 5 out of 4.
5 out of 4,
Clever.
wow.
Clever.
You really don't get maths, do you?
Awesome. So, in true cough fashion, I have a game, then I have a segment, and then Nick has a game. Or,
Because a game.
yes. So,
He
my
does.
game is.
And the thing is, if you want to see Nick's game, you got to wait till the end.
Yeah.
So, you got to keep listening, unfortunately. Because everyone knows the best part of this podcast is Nick's games.
Nick's game. Well, they
They're at
kept
least a 4 out of
listening.
5.
Yeah. At least. Everything's a
At
4 out of 5.
least.
This is like.
True.
Yeah. Ooh. We value your privacy. Do I accept? I do accept. Because there's no way
What?
to access the website otherwise.
Wasn't there a law recently in Europe? The EU, potentially? I'm not sure. Which basically prevented websites from using the whole, if you scroll down, you're consenting to us using cookies. I feel like that was something that was passed recently in some country somewhere.
That's cool. I didn't
Maybe it
even know
was.
that was a thing. I just
But yeah,
wait till it
basically like
pops
the
up.
basically like the things where it's like if you open this envelope, you void the warranty.
Yeah.
But you have to open the envelope to read what's inside.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing, but with websites, and I'm pretty sure it became illegal somewhere at least, which is cool.
Good.
Go internet. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my game, I read the first line of a book, and then you have
this'll
to
be
guess what book it is.
Okay, excellent. I'll be. You know, I'm a
Do
well-read
I-
young man.
The question is, do I choose a book that you've read or not?
If you want, just pick random books and I'll guess. Doesn't matter.
Okay. This one you should know. I definitely don't think you do.
Oh, God.
But it had a key word in the title. The first time I saw Catherine, she was wearing a vivid crimson dress and was nervously leafing through a magazine in my waiting room. She was visibly out of breath.
Have I read the book?
Probably not.
But there's a key word in the title.
Mm-hmm.
In the first sentence as well.
No.
What?
This is an excellent game.
It's already off to such a good start.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you read that to me again, please? This time with more
Would you
vigor.
like it in a sentence? And
I'd like it in number 1 an accent, and number 2, yes.
Okay. The first time I saw Catherine, she was wearing a vivid crimson dress.
A crimson.
And was
First time I saw
nervously
Catherine.
leafing through her magazine in my
Oh, my hair is a
waiting
mess.
room. She was visibly out of breath. Does
Like
that
you.
help? I'm trying to add some
Oh,
order.
are you Catherine? But you're not
Yeah.
in a crimson dress.
I don't have a single red thing in this room that I can put
You definitely
over me.
do. I know you do.
I definitely have my cello in the corner, which is red, and that's it.
Mm.
Am I not trying
You could
hard
do
enough?
that.
Should I get my
No.
cello? No.
No, also no. No to both. I don't know. A key word in the
It
title.
is
Yeah.
Many Lives, Many Masters. The true story of a prominent psychiatrist, his young patient, and the past life therapy that changed both their lives. By
should
Dr.
have known
Brian Weiss,
What was the key word you were talking about?
psychiatrist.
not
All
even what I
psychiatrists,
study.
I expect you to know every single
No,
one.
every single one of them? Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Next book.
I was just going to say, Many Lives, Many Masters sounds like the fourth 50 Shades of Grey
50
book.
Shades of Grey, I was going to say the same thing, yeah.
This next book, which I'm going to skip. Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. The prequel to Orange is the New Black.
That's funny.
Oh, you actually might know this one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the
It
age
was the
of
age
wisdom.
of wisdom. It was the age of
Foolishness.
foolishness. I don't know the book. Oh, it's Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, close. Same.
Or no, it's something and something, right?
Not really. There's
No.
2 of them, but yeah.
Why do I think it was Pride and Prejudice?
It's like same vibe. Like
Yeah.
Victorian England English vibe.
Yeah. I know. It's like classic literature, but
Yeah.
it was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness.
You know what I felt like
Do you
with
know-
that accent? I felt
What?
like Einstein in Genius, which is a TV show, which is very,
Genius.
very good.
Previously on Junior.
Genius.
Yeah,
If you want
we
to marry
watched
my
that.
cousin.
We watched that together
That's all
early in
that
our relationship, and it paved the way for the future. Right.
Yes.
That shows what everything we share is based on.
Mm.
Is Einstein and all his lovely incest.
For instance, you share all my ideas and in fact own all my
They're
ideas,
mine,
like
they're
Einstein
mine.
did.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're my our ideas, but I'm the man in the relationship, so it's kind of like.
Just kidding, guys, but it is a great show and it's really informative into Einstein's positives and negatives.
More than negatives. Well, I think everyone knows about his positives.
Yeah. He's a
I don't
smart
think
guy.
anyone's. I don't think anyone's
questioning.
questioning that aspect of him. I think he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm qualified enough to be like, oh, does E really equal MC squared? I think it does. I trust him.
I like
Although he
my
didn't like quantum
two
physics, did he?
That was what I was going to say. I was going to say my 2 favorite facts about him is that
Number
he just
one.
refused to believe in quantum physics. He was like,
Didn't
"No."
he say God doesn't play dice or something? Wasn't that
Something
the quote?
like that, yeah.
Yeah, like an atheist. Anyway, or maybe he wasn't an atheist. Anyway, fact of the matter
Basically,
is,
when he
maybe
got
wasn't so
older,
smart.
he got less creative. And
Didn't he kind of stick to his like original theories and was like, no, nothing else is different. Only when I was young, everything was, the opposite to what everyone thought it was. But now that I'm old, it's the same as what everyone thinks it is. He did to science and physics what quantum physicists are doing now in his time, and yet failed to accept that maybe there was room for error and change on his own theories, which is kind of really funny, actually.
Yeah. It's like there's this quote, and somebody in like the 1880s or something said that everything that's ever been invented has been invented. What?
What? Yeah. So, it was the age of...
It was the best of times, it was the worst of times.
It was the worst of times, it was the age... Is it It's not Shakespeare, is it?
No.
No,
Victorian England.
Yeah. It's I'm gonna kill
Can I
myself
give you the
when
author?
I find out what it is. Yeah, sure.
Charles Dickens.
Yeah, so it's that was, for some reason my mind was like, his name's Shakespeare, but I was like, I knew who I was talking about.
That's why you were like, yeah, obviously Victorian England when I said Shakespeare.
I knew it was that one guy who wrote that one book about that one guy who hated Christmas. Humbug. I don't remember, but I am genuinely going to kick myself when I find out.
Tale of Two Cities.
Tale of Two Cities.
Yeah, that's why there's two of them.
I know.
Yeah.
I was about to... That genuinely passed through my mind like 5 times. It was like, Tale of Two Cities. No, it couldn't be that. Tale of Two Cities. No, it's not that.
Your subconscious was like, damn it, listen to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I studied this in English.
I feel
I don't
terrible
know if you've
about
read it, but I think you have, and I think you like it. If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where I was born and what my lousy childhood was like, and how my parents were occupied and all before they had me, and all that David Copperfield kind of crap. But I don't feel like going into it if you want to know the truth.
You think I like it?
I don't know. I can't remember any conversation we've had where you said I like it, but I just get that vibe that you have said that.
A relationship
It's
based
not
on
about
vibes.
It's not about space, by the way. So that's not why I'm basing mine.
That's a shame. Speaking of, I just took a really cool picture of the moon.
Yeah.
But that's not really related to this podcast.
Yesterday.
Supermoon. I took 17 images and I stacked them together into one image, and it looks really cool.
That was
Thank you.
that article, we're reading an article about how you should stack your images and make it more detailed, and I thought that was really interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Doesn't really work with an object like the moon because it's so close. It works with like Jupiter because it's so far away and you get so much noise. But with the moon, it's kind of a waste of time. But I did it anyway to experiment with the program and figure out how to do it. Anyway, we're going back to the book.
Yeah. Do you want me to read it to you again?
And you studied it in English, you said.
I did.
Okay.
And
I might have studied it in English.
It has links to the Beatles. I don't think that'll help, but it might.
In what way does it have links to the Beatles? If you tell me what way it has links to the Beatles, I might get it.
The man who shot John Lennon had it in his pocket.
I did not know that. I don't know what he had in his pocket, so that doesn't help me.
So.
Yeah, I figured that part out all by myself.
Congrats!
Thank you. I don't know. I'm looking at my bookshelf as if that will help.
It's not on your bookshelf.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's actually a big clue.
Is it?
Potentially.
You have like 40 books
we're basically,
on your bookshelf.
There's hundreds. There's at least 100 on there.
Maybe.
Are you including all bookshelves in my house or just the bookshelf in my room?
Just the bookshelf.
Because there are thousands in my house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not thousands, but a significant number. We should count them one day.
You haven't seen the basement.
Oh, really?
No, not really.
I was like, where's the basement?
We don't have a basement.
You don't have upstairs either.
No, it's all a myth.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger.
Yeah, of course. I haven't read it.
Oh. Oh, well. For some reason.
But,
Oh, I actually have this book next to me, but I don't think you're going to get it. I like this quote, though.
I have this book next to you.
All happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way.
You have this book next to you.
I do.
Like
in my
like
pile
in your
of books
room.
to read. Yep.
In your pile of books to read. I don't remember what books are in your pile of books to read.
No.
So
I was
I think
gonna
I've
tell
seen
you,
your
you're not
pile.
gonna get this.
No, okay, just tell me.
Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy.
Mm.
Tolstoy.
Tolstoy. Leo Toy Story.
Yeah.
Friend of Tom Hanks. Tolstoy's great.
This will be funny if you don't get this one. It is
Oh,
a truth
God.
universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife.
I don't know.
Pride and Prejudice.
Tale of Two Cities?
Haha.
Thanks. I thought that
You
would get
better
more of a
know this
laugh,
one.
actually.
Pardon?
Okay. I thought that would get more of a laugh, but that's fine. Let's keep going.
You better know this one. I'm
I
just saying.
definitely won't. I have terrible memory of first lines of books.
It was a
I didn't
queer,
even...
sultry summer. The summer they electrocuted the Rosenbergs, and I didn't know what I was doing in New York. You read this line in the last year.
In the last year. The Bell Jar.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very glad I got that.
Yeah, me too. There will be an episode on the Bell Jar in future.
Just for context, the Bell Jar... How long into our relationship was that?
3 months.
3 months?
2 months.
I
2 months.
I
2
bought
months.
that book for her, and
Mm-hmm.
then she gave it to me to read, and
2
I
months.
haven't finished
3 months. I gave you the 2,000 piece puzzle.
Which was, by the way, for anyone listening, pure white. That puzzle. There was a post going around on. There was a post going around on Facebook recently, being about the 1,000-piece version of the pure white puzzle, being like, this is only a demon would give this to someone. Well, guess what? My girlfriend got me the 2,000-piece one.
He like
We
unwrapped
tried-
it and
we-
was like, cool.
I wasn't. I thought it was really cool. I liked it a lot. You're exaggerating so much. But also, we tried to do one of the sides, right? Edges are easy on puzzles. Instead of getting 40 pieces, we made it like 46.
Yeah, we like
And we
counted
couldn't
them and
figure
matched
out-
them up to the picture because the shapes were the same and still couldn't figure it out.
And we couldn't figure out which one was wrong. It was kind of crazy. Yeah.
Okay, this one is about space.
Excellent.
Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Excellent.
Thank
Yes.
you. I'm really glad I got that too.
Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that
Lord
they
of the
were
Rings.
perfectly
Hold
normal.
on. No,
Thank you very much.
hold on. I can get Barry Trotter. No, what's his name? Also, if you haven't read Barry Trotter, it's an excellent parody series, and I love it.
Have
you heard of it?
No, I think
was
I've
in-
heard of it, but
Do you know how I found out about it?
no. You were just roasting your sister about Harry Potter and looked it
No,
up.
no. This is even funnier. Like 50 years ago, when I was in year 7,
Mm.
my English teacher had Barry Trotter on the book in the English classroom. And during like open reading, which is like an hour that we got in some classes to just read, I would always read it.
Mm.
And it was so funny. It was like
Excellent.
Barry and it was just a parody of Harry Potter, and it was excellent.
Barry
And it was in the
Pond.
Yeah, something like that. It was great. It was a great series. I really enjoyed it. So read Barry Trotter.
This is an excellent book.
Mhm.
It was 7 minutes after midnight. The dog was lying on the grass in the middle of the lawn in front of Mrs. Shear's house. Its eyes were closed.
Excellent book doesn't really narrow it down.
No.
There's a
The
lot
dog
of them.
does, and it's
The
nighttime.
dog does. It's nighttime dog. Was it Mrs. Shear?
No.
What was the name of the character?
Oh, Mrs. Shear. Yeah, that's the character.
Literally what I said.
I thought you were saying that's the title of the book.
The dog does. I have no idea.
The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon.
I can see how
I
the dog
gave
in the
you...
night helped there.
Yeah,
You
I
really
gave
me
you
a
lots
lot.
of those words.
You gave me a lot. Tried my best.
So,
Are there
the
more?
next book
Excellent.
starts off like...
Mm-hmm.
Give me a hot second.
How long's a hot second?
Not sure.
In relation to a cold second.
Up above, the wagon rolling along a stony road, big thick clouds were hurrying east through the dusk.
First man.
Yes. And you know
Yes.
how he knew that? Because he could see me looking down at the book
I
have
genuinely could not,
in
and
my
I
hand.
remembered that one from when I read it.
That's
Genuinely,
impressive.
not even joking.
Cool.
I love
I'm
Camus.
genuinely impressed.
Thank you. I love Camus. What
And
can I
that
say?
is what
Can
my
I
segment is about today.
can I tell the story about how this book was discovered, please?
Yes.
As much as it is your segment, and if you want me to let you
That's
talk,
okay.
I will let you talk.
Have lots of other facts.
But I remember last year talking to you about this. And if you don't know, Albert Camus, he was born in that one country that starts with A. Algeria. There we go. That's French colony in Africa. And he basically became one of the most iconic, most well-known existential philosophers of the 20th century. Existentialism is kind of a postmodern, neo-modern take on life which emphasizes the individual as opposed to the collective. It's very much focused on how, no matter which existential philosopher you subscribe to or you think is right, it generally deals with themes of basically living your own life authentically and to the fullest that you can live your own life, rather than living your life as a as a function or as a kind of product of what other people think or what other people want you to do. And so basically the idea of authenticity is to live just as truly and to yourself as possible. So there's inauthentic existence as well, of course, which is, something that a lot of people probably experience. And Camus was what he's best known for is called the absurd. And the absurd... Sorry if this is taking a long time, by the way, Alanna. I don't mean to cut into your segment, but it's really interesting. Thank you. The absurd is this... He came up with it in... probably most well known in his book, The Myth of Sisyphus. And it's this idea, this concept of the moment where you kind of realize that you're searching for a meaning in a universe that has no meaning, no inherent meaning. Right, and there's that disconnect between your desire for a true purpose and a true meaning and the fact that there is none. And so there's a gap there, right? There's a gap between what you want and what there is. And that the experience of realizing that is what he called the absurd. And yeah, so that's Camus. He was friends with Sartre, Jean-Paul
Another
Sartre.
existentialist philosopher.
Another existentialist. But Sartre supported the Stalin regime, I believe.
He was against communism.
Sartre or Camus?
Sartre.
No, Sartre was for communism.
Camus was part of the communist... was involved with communism in university. And then Sartre
but not later in his life.
got mad at him. Okay.
Wasn't it the opposite?
Might have been.
I feel like it was the opposite. I might be wrong. Anyway, the point is, Sartre and Camus were really good friends until they had a disagreement on politics. And Sartre, they didn't really talk after that, which is sad.
Okay,
the other big player...
Sartre embraced Marxism but did not join the Communist Party. Okay.
Yeah, and Camus was against Marxism as a rule. And that was kind of their dividing factor in their
And basically, in this book, The First Man, there's a lot of talk about like the racial issues between the native Algerians and the Arabs, and also the French colonists. And pardon?
You go.
And so there's lots of like racism issues in the book. And he was basically saying that it didn't matter who was sort of in charge, everybody was the same, and then Sartre was kind of against that because he believed one way was superior.
I mean, we could do a whole episode on existential philosophy if we wanted to.
We may.
Maybe 5. You could bring in Heidegger, the German philosopher, who was kind of the precursor to Sartre and Camus, and talk about all this other stuff and all of their ideas. But the point that I was trying to bring up was that Camus, being this existential philosopher, embracing, embracing living in the moment and, living authentically and being just embracing the beauty of nature and the beauty of, the here and now, was planning on going to what was he going that day? The day I'm talking about.
I don't know, but he was with a publisher.
He was originally going to get the train to an event. I believe it was a publishing event or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And so he was going to get a train, and his publisher said to him, "Oh no, I have a car. Why don't I just drive us there? That's much easier." And he said, "No, I really want to get the train." And the publisher was like, "No, we'll take the car. It's fine." And they got in a crash, and Camus died, and so did the publisher, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
And if that's not one of the most poetic deaths for a philosopher,
who doesn't,
in a situation where, if you've seen like Sliding Door, I think that's the name of the movie. Let me have one quick hot look at it. What's it called?
Not sure.
Sliding Doors, yeah. Basically, the movie is about it's a philosophical kind of exploration into the fact that tiny little decisions can have such a massive influence later in your life and down the line. And this idea, and that's a very existential kind of idea. And the fact that the reason that Camus was killed was because he decided, instead of taking a train, which he was planning, he had the ticket for the train in his pocket when they found his body. Yep. The train ticket that would have...
Do you want to continue on to how the book was found?
The train ticket and the manuscript for the book, which we're about to talk about, on his person.
Yes.
At the time of the car crash.
And for some reason, while I was researching this book, every single website indicated / emphasized that the manuscript was covered in mud.
I've seen that too, a lot. Yep.
Why? Not sure. Apparently it was like a rainy, muddy day. So if that sets the scene, hopefully maybe he slid off the road. Maybe that's what they're trying to say. Who knows?
Maybe it is.
But yeah.
Anyway,
January 4th, 1960.
If you want a philosophical podcast, let us know.
Yes.
Existentialism is very much a topic I can talk about. We can talk about for a long time. So.
Yes. January 4th, 1960, at the age of 46, he died. And so basically, this book, The First Man, also known as Le Premiere Homme, wow, I am multilingual.
Meaning, in French, the first man.
Yes.
I'll translate for you.
Is basically a biography of his life, except with change.
Autobiography.
Yeah, but with changed, names of people, and slightly different, but very, 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 very similar to his situation, in that it's somebody who's born in Algeria, and then his father dies before he turns 1. He's very poor. His grandmother's overbearing. And then he works hard at school, has a father figure with the principal. I mean, no, with his teacher who supports him, gets him a scholarship, and then suddenly he becomes really successful. However, since the book is cut short, because it was an unfinished manuscript, you don't really get to grasp the success.
Which is kind of beautiful, in a way.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was reading that has lots of notes and sketches at the back of the book, as well as appendices, about, like, basically his drafts for what was going to happen, and just, like, little thoughts he had.
And it's also important to note that there are bits in the book where, because his daughter, I believe, translated it originally.
Like
there
30
are bits
years
where
after
she's,
his death.
Yeah. There are bits where she's kind of put, or at least the editor from the version that I read has kind of put, this could be open for interpretation, or he scratched this bit out, but we could interpret it, so we've left it in.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And so it kind of feels like a process of a book rather than a finished product, which is really nice, I think.
Yeah. So basically, throughout it, you can see there's punctuation has been added. Words that were not clear are bracketed. Words or parts of sentences that were not decipherable are shown by a white space between square brackets. The author's variants written at the top of the manuscript page appear as footnotes. So basically it'll be like, he was old, he was ancient, he was, etc. Just all written down. And then his marginal inserts are indicated by letters. So just any thoughts he had along the way. Yeah, so in those notes and sketches at the end, there were some things about how much he wanted, because the mother in the story and also his own mother couldn't read, and she was almost completely deaf. And he really wanted it to be written, the book to be written, or at least he had ideas of the book being written to the mother, and that's only at the very end that he kind of becomes conscious of the fact that his mother can't read and she'll never understand what's going on in the book. Because a lot of the book is based on, like, his love for his mother and his respect for her kind of security with just being simple and living such a minute life that she doesn't know anything outside the circle of.
If you want, and this maybe doesn't relate that well, but it's about Camus. If you want a writer who has the most incredible sense of descriptive language, even when translated from French to English, read some of Camus' stuff.
Yeah.
Like, although it's not the same book, there was a few points in The First Man where I was like, wow. But the most striking example is in, probably for me, The Stranger, The Outsider, depending on which translation you subscribe to, where he's just kind of describing the ocean and the sun beating down on people, and the heat and the feeling of being like, wow, nature's just epic compared to me. And yeah, he has a really, really, all of his, especially his nature, his descriptions about nature and the world, are really, really eye-opening, I think. I find them really, really beautiful.
Leading on from that, his other works are much more philosophical. I haven't read them, but this is just what I've picked up on. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Whereas this one's very, like, personal in the moment, kind of like more of a novel.
A few of his works are novels.
Yeah, they're novels, but they, like, focus.
They're probably more philosophical, but
yeah,
they are still... He has his philosophical essays, like The Myth of Sisyphus, and then he has his novels, which are very distinct from them.
Yeah.
It's not like you'll be reading them and be like, wow, this is so philosophical. Like, you won't realise, unless you want to, that it's philosophical at all. It's just a story.
Yeah, that wasn't... I was like, yeah, he has philosophical essays, and then he also has other books, but they are like with this one, it's only once you sort of read into it, it's quite subtle, the, like, underlying messages, and it's just told through this person's own reflections and not in a very overt way. Whereas in some of the other books, from what I've read, they are like more overt and more easy to pick up on the existential topics. Anyway, so basically what this book is about a son going to visit his father's grave, who died before he was 1, and realizing that now he's older than his father was, and just kind of, there's the reason I perceive it to be called the first man. I'm sure there are many interpretations about why, but it was kind of like his father was like a first man in that he moved to Algiers and then didn't really like know anybody. He didn't have any grasp of what he was doing. Their whole family was new to the country, and then even though Camus has all this not Camus, Jacques Cormery in the book has all this education behind him. When he finds out about his father, he realizes he doesn't really know who he is. He doesn't really know anybody. He's just like rediscovering everything. And to me, I believe it's saying that every person is the first man. Everybody has to discover all these things for themselves.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's an amusing book. For instance, they're talking about religion and how, as the saying goes, his family only went to church when someone was hatched, matched, or dispatched.
That's funny. Yeah.
It is. And then he said, even when someone died, the most his grandmother said was, well, he'll fart no more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And it really delves in a lot to memory, because he says that in such poor, uneducated people, dealing with like different class issues, they have no landmarks in their life, in that everything's the same, so they can't remember things as well, which is interesting, I think, because that's kind of what we're dealing with now in quarantine. Like every day is very similar.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah. Some other funny things that I found was his grandmother would put nails in the bottom of his boots so that they wouldn't wear out. And she'd check the boots every night to see if there was any wearing on them from playing soccer at lunch, because he wasn't allowed to play soccer because then they'd have to buy new boots. And so, like, in class, in the last period, he'd be, like, furiously scrubbing dirt on the nails, trying to stop them from shining. That's
so funny.
Yeah. So
also relatable.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of the characters are in the book which are important. His friend, Pierre, who... It's funny, throughout the book, lots of the characters have multiple names. For instance, his uncle Ernest is Ernest and also Etienne. And then Pierre has another name as well. Which is funny because obviously it's such a autobiographical novel that he hasn't formed names for the characters. He's just describing the characters and then going to go back and rework it.
But he knows who they are, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, his uncle Etienne Ernest, has some sort of mental disability, so that he's like doesn't really understand language very well. So he only has like a few words, but there's a massive connection between his uncle and his mother, who obviously also has a disability because she's deaf, and and there's just like he talks a lot about how like they care for each other in silence, like they can read so much from each other that they don't need words and other forms of communication. In these appendices and notes, it's funny, he gets like really bitter as they go on. Like they become more negative, and I'm not sure.
That could just be because it was kind of unpublished and he was just writing his thoughts.
Yeah, I think so. But it was just funny that like it seemed as the book went on or whatever, it became more bitter. But not the actual script of the book, just the notes.
Yeah,
later
yeah,
ones.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is he's probably just like frustrated about what he's doing. He's like, whoops.
And also his sister.
I
mean, not his sister. His daughter said that he definitely would have edited it to make it a lot less personal, and that he hated revealing himself, as is evidenced by a note to his teacher who inspired him, when his teacher's like, you were always such a reserved man. I'm very impressed that you've managed to keep to yourself even though you're famous now, basically.
Yeah. He's very... Yeah. He was... Yeah. There's a lot of things you could say about him. He was a very kind of like... Of his day, like very stylish and kind of like this almost heartthrob kind of figure, right? Where he was like this really, he was an attractive young man who was kind of paid to think and write. And then compare that to like Sartre, who was this guy with an eye that stuck out the side of his head and had a wife who was in an open relationship. There's Camus on the front there.
This is Camus if you're watching the YouTube video.
If you can find, for me or anyone, a photo of Camus without a cigarette in his mouth, I think it would be worth about $1 million. They all have a cigarette in his mouth. Every single photo of him, it's incredible. Yeah. Yeah, he was quite an extraordinary man. And it's a shame that he died so young.
Yeah.
Because he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the 50s. He was a pretty extraordinary writer, and he had a very, very... Interestingly, Camus and Sartre both won the Nobel Prize for Literature, but Sartre rejected it. Sartre didn't accept it.
Yeah, he didn't like material awards.
And Camus was just like, yeah, give it to me.
He was the celebrity philosopher. Yeah.
Absolutely. But he was also one of the most influential philosophers of the 20th century, at least.
Yeah. I have a couple of other things to say. Cool. Talking about the race, he's kind of talked about violence in a very like animalistic way almost. In that, firstly, he talked about how so many people had gone off to die for their country in these wars. And when he asked his parents, his mum, do you know what our country is? She couldn't answer. And she didn't know, she just knew that sometimes men had to go off and wouldn't come back, kind of.
Yeah.
And then there's lots of evidence of senseless violence, especially when they first came to Algeria. And then he was saying it gets so hot there that sometimes violence just happens just because you're just frustrated with the heat. For instance, he saw somebody at a barber shop who the barber just got sick of him, so he slit his throat and then pushed him outside. And it was like, oh, okay, whoa, this is it seemed like just it was a very simple time. There was no build up to it. It just happened.
Yeah,
and then
happened.
He kept going. Yeah. Yeah. And apparently one title for a section he considered was Adam. So obviously religion, but
biblical themes. But he was very much not a religious person.
No. And
which
neither
is probably
were
worth,
many of the poor people there.
No.
Just didn't have time for it. So he went to the lycée, which is the high school that basically poor people cannot go to. Because they don't have enough money, they have to be working after age 10. So he got a scholarship, him and 3 of his friends. And there was a 4th person who tried out for the scholarship and was the only one who didn't get it. And it was just kind of he knew that he just kind of disappeared after that. He wasn't a big character, but it was kind of he knew that he would never get out of this world, whereas the others, they didn't even know what world they were getting out of, kind of, because like he went home and the teacher was like, look, I know your son's not working now, but he's gotten a scholarship, and if he goes to school, he'll have like much more money and much better jobs. And she couldn't really comprehend that, but his teacher was like, listen, just like, I know this is the correct thing to do. But yeah, she couldn't comprehend that he could escape, kind of.
Yeah.
And then going back to this father figure idea, is he never missed his father until he went to that grave, because he had so many other father figures.
Yeah, I love that particular description when he gets to the grave. And when he realizes, when he reads the date of the death and he realizes, hold on, this guy who I've been kind of my whole life thinking of as like, you know, not my father, because he just, you know, he's not he left and he wasn't there. He was younger than I am now when I'm looking at his grave when he died. And it's kind of like this huge realization of like, wow. Yeah.
Do you want me to read it to you?
Really, really. Sure. Absolutely.
Jacques Cormery, gazing up at the slow navigation of the clouds across the sky, was trying to discern, beyond the odour of damp flowers, the salty smell just then coming from the distant motionless sea, when the clink of a bucket against the marble of a tombstone drew him from his reverie. At that moment he read on the tomb the date of his father's birth, which he now discovered he had not known. Then he read the two dates, 1885 to 1914, and automatically did the arithmetic. 29 years. Suddenly he was struck by an idea that shook his very body. He was 40 years old. The man buried under that slab, who had been his father, was younger than he. And then it has a footnote that says transition, so he scrolled in the margins to have a transition after that. Yeah.
Yeah. That always makes me feel some kind of way when I read that.
Yeah.
And even you can even see in that particular passage Camus'
showing, not
comfort.
telling.
Showing, not telling, but his absolute kind of comfort and almost affinity with describing nature. Like at the start of that passage, like the sea and the flowers and all this other stuff. It's so natural and it feels so real when he describes it. And yet, I challenge anyone to try and write a similar description of nature in a way that captures it as well as he does. I don't think it's possible. I really don't. It's incredible.
And I think to end, I'm just going to have a fun fact, and then a question, and then a funny story. So those are three things.
And then the thing you've all been waiting for.
The game.
Nick's game.
What's it called?
Nick chose a game in a hurry today.
Okay, so the fun fact is that he was going to write an entire chapter going backwards in time. So, yeah, starting at the end and then being like previously, except
have you seen?
I imagine in a much more eloquent way than that.
Previously.
It'd
It'd be like watching 10 episodes of Genius.
Yeah.
But just the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of going backwards in time, have you seen Memento?
No, I haven't, but it's on the list.
It's on the list. Christopher Nolan. It goes backwards in time, and then it goes forwards in time, and then it meets in the middle, and it's kind of amazing.
I've heard. I've wanted to watch that for a while. So.
Maybe Nick talks about a movie. Episode 2 will be about that.
That sounds
Maybe
great.
Not.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of movies I want to talk about. And they're all excellent. But I have an idea of what the next one is going to be. So get excited for that. Next Monday.
Okay, so this is a series of questions, but it all culminates to one question that I copied off one of the, read this before you read the book and then you'll have a better understanding sort of thing. websites. For me, honor in the world is found among the oppressed, not those who hold power. How does Jacques' victory over a boy in his schoolyard who taunted him illustrate an early example of this moral vision? How does Jacques' theft of a 2 franc piece from his grandmother and his grandmother's attempted recovery of, like, literally digging through the latrine affect his understanding of the family's economic situation and his own betrayal of the family? In another situation in which his grandmother plays another part, Jacques is forced to lie in order to get a summer job. Why is this particular act of loyalty to the family's economy so difficult to him? So basically, where's the line between white lies and black, the grey? Yes.
Black lies. White lies and unacceptable moral behaviour. There you go.
Yeah, and his grandmother didn't even expect to have the 2 francs back. But then he said, oh, I got 2 francs back, and then pretended to drop it down the toilet. And then kept it. And then he felt so bad when she spent hours digging through the waste.
Yeah.
And then my final funny fact before we go into the game.
Nick's famous and exciting game.
Is one of the notes, and he said, at the age of 40, having ordered meat very rare in restaurants all his life, he realised he actually liked it medium and not at all rare.
I like that.
Me too.
I like that a lot. So, there we go. Camus liked his steaks medium.
Yes.
You learned something massive about
But he was a
philosopher
sheep
today.
for a while.
Was he a sheep? It's true. Was he living authentically? We don't know.
No, not
Probably
until he realised.
Not until I discovered that medium steak. Not that I agree.
No.
Medium rare is the way to go.
Absolutely.
Medium rare.
Yeah.
Perfect balance of blood and cook.
Excellent.
Okay. Seamless transition. One seamless transition later. And we arrive at Nick's game.
Please describe
That
what
was the
game is.
transition.
After
the
segment, what was it called? Alanna reviews a book and says that it's
and
4
gives
out
it
of
4
5.
out of 5.
Yeah.
Yep. So wait, just to clarify, what would you rate that book that we just reviewed?
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
What a shock to the nation and to the world.
All
right, Nick game.
Nick game.
This game is not that exciting. I'm sorry to admit, but basically, we have a very vague description out of a book, and you have to guess what book it is.
Wow. Okay, that sounds great.
A very vague description.
Yeah.
Most of these are classics, so there's a good chance you'll have read them, or at least heard of them.
Maybe.
Number 1, a young woman gets an internship in a big city.
Oh, that's a bell jar for sure.
That is the bell jar. Good job. We both would have got that. All right. An old guy tries to break his unlucky streak.
What?
If you want, I can give you the author.
Okay.
Ernest Hemingway.
It's got to be The Old Man and the Sea.
Yeah. It is. A young woman is publicly humiliated. Another classic. Probably less popular than any of Hemingway's stuff or The Bell Jar.
The Hunger Games.
No.
I'm
no,
just
a
kidding.
classic.
Yeah. Publicly humiliated. I feel like I know what it is, but it's just...
There's probably a lot of classics which have that theme in them.
Yeah.
Would you like the author or would you like the
I
name
would
of the
love
book?
the author, thank you.
Nathaniel Hawthorne.
That didn't really help.
Would you now like the name of the book?
I would. And then I'll guess.
The Scarlet Letter.
The
is the book.
Scarlet Letter is my guess.
Good guess. That's correct.
Thank you.
This one you know, but I don't think you'll know it from the description.
Okay.
A man tries to impress a woman with his money.
The Great Gatsby.
You got it. Good job.
Yeah.
That's
These
funny.
descriptions suck.
I mean, they don't really. You're getting a lot of them. They're pretty good descriptions, I think. Like, Bell Jar was great.
Yeah, it was.
Great Gatsby was pretty good as well, to be fair. Alright, this one. A poor student plans to kill an old woman.
Poor student.
This is a very, very well-known book.
Oh, God.
Not saying you've read it, but
No. Saying that's well known. Yeah.
well known. You'll know the name of it even if you don't know the book. And you'll know the author.
Who's the author?
Dostoevsky.
Damn it. What did he write? War and Peace?
You're so close.
Peace and War?
You're so close. Crime and Punishment.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who wrote War and Peace?
Is that even a book? Don't you mean The Art of War? Or do you mean War
No.
and Peace?
War
Oh, Tolstoy.
Oh, cool. He wrote both. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. A
And
man
it was
sets
some
out.
Russian dude.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, Dostoevsky, pretty Russian name.
Exactly.
This one I like a lot. I like this description. A man sets out on a quest to get revenge on something that hurt him. Think like any adventure story ever, right?
Yeah, right?
But it's not, well, it is an adventure story. But a bit more classic than, like,
Robin Hood.
no.
Three Musketeers.
Would you, not that,
Not bad.
it's not a stereotypical adventure in that way.
Okay. Could
The
you
author
describe how they hurt him?
What do you mean?
Like, you can see the book, right?
Yeah.
The answer. Can you describe how they hurt him? Who hurt him?
How the thing that he was going after hurt him.
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard to say without giving it away. Would you like the name of the narrator?
Okay. Yeah.
Ishmael.
Some sort of Jewish book, is it?
That's an interesting take. Would you like the author? The author will give it away, I think.
Probably won't.
Melville.
Oh. What are you?
Herman Melville. There's one book that
Yeah,
you'd probably associate with his name.
for sure. But I can't remember it. Is it? No, I don't know. I don't know.
Think biblical stories.
Jonah and the Whale. Is that what I'm thinking?
And what's another name for that? It's a very similar story.
Moby Dick. Is that?
Correct.
Yeah. You know, I was gonna say when you said Ishmael, I was gonna say Moby Dick, and then I was like, nah, no way. But,
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's it. Melville Moby Dick is like yeah.
Yeah.
All right. There's a few more left. This is really fun. I'm enjoying this.
Yay.
A young woman and man eventually fall in love, despite originally disliking each other.
Beauty and the Beast.
Is that us? Probably. No, it's not Beauty and the Beast, but it's a book that you will remember from very recently.
I will remember from very recently. Okay. Initially disliking each other. Not sure. Not sure.
When I
not
say
sure.
when I say remember from recently, I mean from this podcast episode.
Pride and Prejudice.
Yep.
Okay.
Jane Austen. The next one. These are all really, really vague. I'm impressed you got some of them.
Thanks.
Can I just say that? These are really hard.
Mm.
I'm trying to guess them before I see the answer. I've only got like 2 or 3 right now, and they were the ones that you got. All right. This one's, yeah. A man is betrayed and tries to clear his name.
I don't know. You hear the thing and you're like, oh, for sure I've read a story
Could
about
be anything.
that. And
Yeah.
then you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I haven't read this one.
I feel like it's set in France. Am I correct?
Yep. I believe so. But I haven't read it. I'm 99% sure it is. Yeah, you're right. It is.
Cool.
It's
Yeah.
one of the author's most popular books, and you will know the title.
Is it Victor Hugo's one of his?
No.
No. Who was a French writer? Well, I guess it doesn't have to be a French writer. It was set in France.
It is a French writer. I'll give you that. But it's not Victor Hugo.
I don't know.
Although, think of Victor Hugo's most famous work.
Quasimodo or Les Mis?
Another name for Quasimodo.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Yeah.
Now, put the same sentence structure, but with different words.
The betrayed boy of Paris.
It has the same amount of words in it.
Okay.
And it follows the exact same structure.
Are you counting Hunchback as 2 words?
1 word.
1 word, okay.
And Notre Dame as 2.
Yeah.
I can't give you any more clues without giving it away.
I don't know.
The Count of
I don't know.
Monte Cristo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I wasn't gonna get
Dumas. Okay, yeah.
I was not
I
gonna
thought
get
I thought the Hunchback clue was my best clue so far. That was a really good clue.
That was a good clue.
There are probably people listening being like punching their car radio, being like, "How did
God,
you not get that?"
The Count. Think
The Count of Monte
vampire.
Cristo. Of course, it's that.
Duh.
All right, we've got 2 more left. And this one, if you don't get this one, I might end the podcast right now.
Okay.
I haven't looked at the answer, but I know what the answer is.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
You will get it. A lawyer defends an innocent man who is falsely convicted and later killed.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Correct. Good job.
Fun fact of the day, my dog's called Scout from To Kill a Mockingbird.
There you go.
Yes.
As if you didn't call him Atticus or her Atticus.
You know what's funny is I was reading my high school newsletter and one of the teachers was talking about walking their dog Atticus named after To Kill a Mockingbird and I was like, our dogs should meet.
Atticus is an excellent name.
Also, my dog's
Can
a
I just
girl.
say that? It is. But
There was
who's to say Atticus wasn't a girl too?
Kid in year
In
3.
his heart.
Yeah, we're only dealing with a couple of issues in that book. Not
Not the issue of transgenders.
Yeah. There was a kid in year 3 in my year 3 class. Well, actually in like year 2, year 3, year 4 class called Atticus. So that's like when I think of Atticus as a name, not as the character, that's what I think of.
I haven't met anyone called Atticus, so I just think of the lawyer.
Nice.
Also, what an excellent book.
Yeah, really,
To Kill a Mockingbird. What an excellent book.
Mm.
Really, really good. All right, last one. Every time I see this author's name, all I can think of is BoJack Horseman.
Well, I haven't seen BoJack Horseman.
I know, which is why it's not a clue to you, but it might be a clue to other people.
Ah.
Anyone listening to this podcast who's watched BoJack Horseman, I'm going to give you a big hint right now. It's the same guy who ended up producing What do celebrities know? Do they know things? Let's find out on BoJack Horseman.
Peanut butter dog.
And the author is the author of a book which can be summarized in this sentence. A young man is expelled from school.
Well, now I'm thinking Catcher in the Rye.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Awesome.
What's the author?
J.D. Salinger.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Good job.
Maybe we'll do an episode on the historical connections of Catcher in the Rye. I mean, connotations. Yeah.
Do
Anyway.
we have time for one more Nick plays a game?
I don't think so. We've been going for 66 minutes.
We have, but there's some pretty good games on here.
We'll save it for our next book episode, okay? I know this is exciting stuff, but stay tuned. Hit that like and subscribe button if you want to see it.
Hit the bell. Don't forget to hit the bell. Get notifications.
Drink your water. Drink your tea and your water.
Oh my
we nearly
God.
forgot.
If you made tea at the beginning of this episode, I'm so sorry that I forgot to remind you halfway through to drink it.
Yeah.
But drink it now, and at least it might be lukewarm.
Excellent.
Right?
Yeah.
And drink water, because water's good for you. Stay hydrated.
And adios. From
Adios.
the first.
What's a word for goodbye in another language other than adios? And not
the opposite of ni hao, so like ao her in. And with that, we'll end the podcast.
Forever, I think, after the repercussions of that.